Welcome to Tehachapi, the City of Tehachapi's podcast, where we share conversations with local leaders, business owners, and community members. Don't miss an episode. Be sure to follow and subscribe to learn something new and discover ways to get involved in our community. It's Tehachapi time, Key Budge. Today I've got two guests that are coming in. One guest, the first time, and I have a returning guest.
Yes. It's been a while, though.
It has. I've got Maddie and Justin Janssen. Welcome to Tehachapi.
Thanks, Key.
Well, yeah, thanks for having us.
The fun thing about this is that we're going to be talking about not only what you guys are doing, you guys are part of Tehachapi, but you've got your podcast. So we've got another Tehachapi podcast that we're getting to talk about and promote. So it's exciting. And this is season 2, right? Am I right on that?
Seasons kind of align with the books of the Bible. So season 1 was all Genesis. Season 2 is Exodus. We always joke around at this pace. By the time we get to the New Testament, we'll be about 85 years old.
Probably older than that if we're continuing at the pace we're going.
We asked the kid, that's what you're getting in the will, is just continue this on.
And your podcast, The Greatest Stories Ever Told.
A family Bible podcast.
I loved it when I heard that. I was like, oh, okay, this is different. Listening to the episodes, you guys tell a little story, and it might have been maybe the teaser to introduce the podcast over a year ago. And you guys talked about looking for a media, something out there for the family. Mm-hmm. You couldn't find it.
Right. Yeah, well, we used to commute back and forth between Bakersfield. You know, Justin still works in Bakersfield a lot, and with the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, I was at KGET. The boys went to school down there, so we always had a commute. And on the way home, I didn't want to waste that commute time with my boys. And I looked for something that would be meaningful, that would go through God's Word, that would kind of delve into the history and the context, because I could find that in adult form. I found podcasts that I loved that really did that for me, but I couldn't find anything that would appeal to kids or a family audience in general. And I realized there just wasn't a lot out there. And I mentioned it to him, and it was late 2024 when he was like, why don't we do a podcast like this? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. And then he bought all of the equipment, and in December of 2024, he's like, here we go, get ready.
Yeah, so even more context in that, looking back on it, you think of the decisions, things I was going through, and really you label it as like, you could say that's a midlife crisis, some of the stuff I was doing. I'm like, why not start a pod? I just wanted to make content. So let's make content, Christian content somewhere. And then she had the idea of, well, how about a podcast? And it kind of aligned with, okay, some of the content I want to make, I can kind of put it into the podcast as well, along with the stories. And again, it all kind of wrapped up into what we're doing now. And then I started thinking, I was like, how many, as we're going through Genesis and Exodus, how many of the things that these people went through that you're like, is this a midlife crisis or is this a full mental breakdown actually? And no, but it's, it's just something that felt right at the time. And we've learned through church, and that's if something's nudging you and feeling right, and go and just do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I love podcasting, obviously. We're in season 7. We've done over 600 episodes.
Wow.
And this was something I pitched when I came on 10 years ago here, is that podcasting is the future of communicating with people. And you can get very niche, and pick your topic, and you guys have that. We're a little bit broader, general conversation about what's going on around Tehachapi, but the audience is here. They want it. Like for myself, when I go through my list of podcasts, I kind of, what am I feeling? Oh, you know what? Let's see what's going on with your show or with another show. And I think we geared it for exactly what you talked about, the drive back up the hill with the kids. Our focus was our commuters. We realized that 65% of the workforce here in Tehachapi are commuters. They're either heading out to Edwards, AV, or Bakersfield. So trying to hit a 20 to 30 minute mark to talk about whatever the topic is was ideal. So that's been our goal. And you hit it spot on exactly when you said, okay, looking for something with the kids driving back up the hill.
Yeah, and we knew as well, too. I drive from Bakersfield back up to Tehachapi at home, and probably the thing I need the most is the Lord on that drive from Bakersfield back to Tehachapi.
Yeah.
Because,
those truckers.
Yes, exactly. I think the commuters know the pain in that one. But again, it just all aligned in it, and it seemed right. And we've just been having fun doing it as well. And I think that's a
key thing. So it brings a smile. So for those that have not had a chance to check out Maddie and Justin's podcast, You guys have a different style with it. And I really enjoyed it because, and you guys explained it as like 3 different elements is what the goal was. So let's explain how you guys go about it.
So the first part is whimsy, and that's all Justin.
It was the idea of just putting them into a situation of what's going on back then. And I always had this idea that we have this sense of separation of the people in Genesis and in Exodus. And well, so far ago that they were completely different people. But when you really dig in, they're dealing with a lot of the same stuff that we're dealing with right now. When you get to the heart of the matter, the insecurities, the troubles, the interpersonal relationships, not trusting of God and trusting of his plan. I wanted a way to kind of bridge this thing where what if some of the stuff we deal with today we could put in that biblical context back then. So this last one, we added in the Olympics, the Pharaoh Olympics. I'll put in songs from music. Parody songs. So I made one. It's We Don't Talk About Pharaoh, like Encanto. And it's just these whimsical ideas that, these are the same people. We're all part of the same human race dealing with the same issues, no matter how long ago this was. And it's just the idea to set the stage for what's going to happen afterwards.
And he has a ton of fun with it. Lots of sound effects and goofy, just silly ideas that he and the boys collaborate on sometimes. So that sets the stage for getting us into it. Like, okay, this is a little bit of the story or the landscape that we're in today. And then we jump into what we call our words of wisdom. So the word, actually, the biblical word. And that was one of the things I couldn't find in a lot of Bible podcasts that were directed at kids. They were retellings, kind of really boiled down, almost dumbed down, some of them, to appeal to kids. And I think kids can handle the real word of God and they need it in their lives. And it's so important. And it's something I didn't get a lot of growing up, and I want my kids to have that. So we go into the text. Sometimes it's an entire chapter. These last few, we've taken excerpts from 3 or 4 chapters and combined them into one podcast. So that, and then we do our words of wisdom at the end of the word, where we do fun facts, background information, historical context that make things make sense. And then we walk it out. We talk about how does this apply? What can we learn about God? And what do we learn about what he wants for us in our lives from this text?
It's such an easy listen. And then the fact that you say that the boys have a little bit of input here and there, and then you grab the little sound bites, little pieces out of maybe a movie or something that people recognize. I thought that was really cool. There's a lot of time that goes into producing something like that.
Yeah, working in education now for a couple decades, kind of understanding the kids, and as they're listening, there needs to be just this little bit to kind of reignite them in their attention span. So I was like, every now and then we need a little sound effects, such something to break up our voices. I did it in the classroom as well. How can I break up my voice just to get their attention? So yeah, I'm on there searching through all of these sound effects, and again, trying to include the kids as much as I can. We have fun. There was one, I played the locust hunter, like the crocodile hunter, and I'm out there wrestling the kids on the ground to get the sound effects for them. So they're thinking I'm crazy as well, but we're having a great time doing it.
Now, what do they think when they listen back? Do they like to listen?
Yeah, we homeschool now this year. So when we used to listen on our drive home, now we're listening at the kitchen table as our Bible time once a week. And I love their reactions and watching their faces. And they will just be singing these songs to themselves afterwards that Justin makes up for the podcast. They get stuck in their head. They're catchy. They're singing them back to us. And when they're laughing at the sound effects, I know that they're not just listening to the sound effects. That means they're listening to everything else too. And I love that it's something that engages them and makes them stay focused. And I always ask them at the end, what did you get out of it? And I love hearing their different takes and their different insights and just the way that they have learned more about God and who they are according to him through this process has been so cool.
And it speaks to your background in education. If you put that thought into like, how have I connected with kids over the past? And then you see the success when your own kids are listening. Because the hardest thing is for your own kids to listen to mom and dad. Mm-hmm. You've brought them in to be a part of it. And then figured out the little things that their age groups, it keeps, like you said, kept their attention span. So you've used your experience and brought it to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always bought into the idea of edutainment, especially in the classroom and outside the classroom now in my job. Is I've made videos and things like that for trainings and things I've done, because it's this idea of, how can we lighten things up? How can we're trying to make the word accessible too. I think we get overwhelmed in kind of thinking, oh, we're not a Bible scholar, which I'm not a Bible scholar at all, but it's meant for it to be accessible to all people at all times, everywhere. And that's the idea. How can we kind of bring it down where this is the word accessible to you in your life and to apply it? And again, having fun with it as well, because we want to have fun with it when we can.
I love that. And like I said, it's been an easy listen for me. And I live back in Bear Valley, and you guys hit right in that anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes is kind of the main for most of the episodes,
Right.
which really makes it a quick, easy listen. And then having fun with it. It is a de-stressor. You talked about that drive, that de-stress. And I remember back when I was working in the Antelope Valley in the sheriff's department, that drive home was my decompression time. Whatever it was, finding the music or something that put me in that mode of like, okay, done with work, time to go home and get into family mode. This definitely fits that. And I love the fact that the kids give you they participate.
Oh, yeah. They get brought up every time I have like my rough cut of the whimsy. I bring them up and say, tell me what you think. I want to know. And I know my youngest definitely, he has no problem kind of giving me exactly, you always get the idea. Okay, I can add like last one. We didn't get as much pops on kind of the beginning part of it. So I had to add in a few more sound effects to get them to get them more into it. But yeah, it just adds that kind of family element too, which kind of was another impetus of this whole process as well, as understanding that our culture, even within our own families, everything is designed to kind of isolate us from one another.
Right.
All of our devices, everything, we feel like we're connected to really the device, not to each other. And there's so much busyness in our lives too. So we're like, could this be something as well that had the power just to connect the family for 15 to 20 minutes and give them food for thought for the rest of the week to be able to discuss?
And then that ties in the devices. Right? I mean, you can have 5 people sitting in a room, not saying a word, all doing their own thing, all with the strongest thumbs in the world. I experienced that. So I can see that does. And it brings that device kind of back, okay, let's use it for a very constructive, positive interaction.
It's devastating how they've isolated us. We think that we're more connected than ever, but we're actually more isolated than ever across all age groups and all socioeconomic levels. We need to really figure out, and I think that the pendulum is starting to swing the other way, reconnecting face-to-face, human to human, and I really hope that that's the way we continue to go.
Oh, I agree. What I find really fascinating, just knowing you, Maddie, and getting to work with you through the years, and with you at 17, and it's always been kind of a media. So I thought, the natural assumption, Maddie's producing. But Justin, this is the energy, the passion. So did you have any media background prior to the education or during the education? You just brought that in as a part of teaching and connecting with kids?
And I've enjoyed, like in the past here and there when I can, making videos, editing together, doing little stuff like that. I've always wanted to, and where it fit in. And even if it didn't fit in, actually, I would still try to fit it in there. And then kind of as this started organically coming together, a lot of it was she was doing all the research, the writing, things like that. And then we would record and I would take it from there and post and kind of cut it all together and tie it all together. And actually, I enjoy doing that as well. It's kind of fun.
He's the tech guy.
Yeah.
I am super not the tech person at all. And even when I worked at KGET, the editing was not my forte. I did it and I loved it, but I was always pulling in my co-anchor, Alex, please come show me how to do this.
Right.
Someone give me tips. And so, that is not my wheelhouse. I love researching and looking at the commentaries and reading the word and looking at what does the original Hebrew say and what are all the different meanings of that word. I loved to, before I did that, I would always just read all the different translations. Okay, this verse is interesting. Let's see what the different translations, how they say it differently, because I think that it gives you a little more well-rounded idea of, okay, well, what did it actually mean when it was written in the original language? So I do that front part, and then he does, like he said, all of the production part and the sound effects and the editing, all the tech stuff.
I'm very much a storyteller too, and I'm not really I'm saved by my team that are the technical geniuses that put everything together.
Yeah.
I love to do the storytelling and have the conversations and pull out information. And maybe it's the old cop background where I can hear something that said, it's like, okay, I'm going to remember that and let's come back to that. But when it comes to putting things together, I really depend on the team because they're really good at that. So it is a team effort. So you guys can see that. But the assumption was, okay, Maddie, so this is okay. Retired from the news anchor desk, and this is the new. But it is. But it's all the technical side is here with Justin. I love that.
True team effort.
Yeah, and I have like the whimsy in my mind. Like I know that's why I like cutting it together too, because I know what it should sound like and want it to sound like. Doesn't always happen that way. I learned that on our first music parody whimsy. I was like, oh, there's not enough auto tune in this world to make my voice. I kept trying. I was like, oh, that doesn't sound like it either. But in the end, you gotta work it together to make it sound goofy and sound odd. But I think that helps as well because it's able to, like, in my mind what I want, I can cut it together and do as much little filtering and sound effects as possible to get it close to where it should be.
We were talking before we started recording about home studios and that. And Maddie, you brought up something that I thought was spot on. You know, and I made me flash back to when I was retiring from law enforcement and re-entering the media world of having that home studio and putting things together and then learning to work away from an office setting, a professional setting, then making your professional setting at home. And what was that like for you guys?
Well, what I was talking about was I really got introduced to that because of the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, I was at KGET doing the morning newscast like I did for so many years, and we would alternate weeks at home when we would anchor from home using our phones as our cameras, and I had a TV we bought specially for the occasion set up behind me with the 17 News logo in my bedroom, and that was my background. So I anchored from home 1 week on and then 1 week in studio, and we did that for, months. And then after that, even when we came back to the studio, if there was going to be a big snowstorm or something in Tehachapi, I would stay home and I would report live from my backyard or my deck over the backyard looking at the snow coming down. So it really felt very natural to make that transition because we were so versatile and hybrid before that due to the pandemic.
You know, like you said, you're broadcasting TV. I mean, if you think back years and years, and, you know, I'm much older than you guys, but it's the technology has evolved that our phones are broadcast quality.
Yeah.
That's what
wild.
blows me away. You know, we do live hits from here for local Bakersfield TV, and we're doing it on our phone or iPad.
Yeah.
And it looks just as clean as the studio cameras.
Wild.
Yeah.
You're right. A lot of the news, like she was doing it on her iPhone, and it wasn't she was probably a couple models back from the latest release at that time, but it was going live from her iPhone. And I'm sure I haven't gone back and seen it, but she was talking about the TV back there with the 17 logo. It was probably tight enough. That's all you saw. But if you were to get rid of that TV, the bed and all of our stuff was just right there. But it's pretty amazing where we've come.
Yeah, you just add a microphone and you're good to go. And there's even teleprompter apps for your phone. So it's amazing. It makes me think back to when we started Tehachapi 7 years ago. We started with just a digital recorder. So we didn't have, now we're blessed to have microphones and kind of a space dedicated to do the podcast. But we started just with a digital recorder, just on let's give it a chance. And we do the interviews, kind of the old school, with the tape recorder in hand, and then we go back and edit. And it started evolving as people started listening. So it's like, okay, this was something that we do here at the city is let's not invest in this not knowing what's going to happen. Let's see if there is something there. There's some substance. We got a little substance, and then it was like, okay, let's add a little bit more technology, more equipment, and get it to where it sounds the best that it can, and we benefit the community. So, but just the thing, we evolved from handheld tape recorder to where we're able to do now, which is pretty cool.
Circling back to that midlife crisis thing, it's funny, just this past weekend, I had originally also built a whole background and because originally I was like, we could film this and cut it together and we'd have this nice background. So it's moved in each of the boys' bedrooms and it was against one of the walls. It was the last place. And finally this weekend I was tearing it down and my oldest, it was in his room. He's like, how come you tearing it down? I was like, son, this is just a dad realizing reality here that we're not doing this and you get your room back. So no longer is it a studio.
Yeah, the idea was to have the video portion as well that would be on like the YouTube.
Right.
Because our podcast is on YouTube, but there's no visual aspect to it.
Right, just like ours.
We would love for that to happen. It's just with his full-time job and the equipment that we have right now, it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
So eventually, though, maybe one day in the future, you can put that baby back together.
Once the kids get old enough, that'll be their job.
They'll do the filming and the editing. It's not a bad idea.
They're the video
extracurricular activity.
Yeah.
Well, that's been, for us for 7 years, it's been audio only, and we're on YouTube, and you get a static photo, and it's fine. And I know that podcasting has evolved to where it is kind of a TV show now more than a podcast.
Which is funny.
Yeah, but it's still considered a podcast.
And when I listen to podcasts, I mostly am listening to them. I'm listening while I am doing something else.
Exactly.
So it makes sense that way.
Yeah. So what's going to be the next part? What's coming? I know where. Obviously you're going to turn the page in the Bible to get to the next verses, the next chapter. Is there anything on the horizon?
Well, we are coming to the end of Exodus, and that does present us with a big decision because, naturally we would go next into, Leviticus. And we were talking about that. And we're like, well, it doesn't feel right for our audience to go chapter by chapter through the next Bible book as we have been doing, because we've been doing about one chapter per episode. And I don't think that's what's going to happen as we go into Leviticus. And we were kind of talking, when do we want to go back to Job? Because Job actually was written around the same time Genesis, parts of Genesis were written. So really chronologically, we should probably fit Job in there. But how do we do that in a way that is fitting for our audience? Because we have families of all ages, and Job is a long book. It's a great book, and there's some beautiful chapters and verses in it. So I think maybe we will start condensing a couple of chapters and doing an overview of Job in 3 or 4 episodes, an overview of Leviticus in 3 or 4 episodes, something like that. That's where I kind of landed, because we were talking about this last week and bouncing ideas off of each other and off of friends.
Yeah, because it's one chapter a week right now. That's kind of where we land. We were talking about Job. I joked around. I was like, well, we're going to have the whole audience depressed until about August, until things start turning around for him. Also, moving through and things in the works and seeing, our schedules. It would be a dream where we could do an episode once a week of the Old Testament and then also another one of the New Testament, and kind of working side by side, because there is so much in that New Testament as well. And
that we'll never get to at this point in our lives if we continue straight through.
And there's so much beauty in the foundational aspects of the Old Testament and how that leads up to all of the fulfillment of the New Testament, and being able to kind of do both of those in the same week. So like I said,
maybe by the end of the year.
Yeah, that'll be our goal.
It's a dream.
Well, it'll happen if you vision it.
Right.
You make it happen. It'll take place, and I can already tell. I can see you're creative. You're looking at it, visualizing, completing that.
Yeah, I'm thinking 2 whimsies a week. I'm like, I know this is really good.
Does it drain you coming up with that, or is it getting easier as week to week?
It's fun. I enjoy it. And some weeks are much easier. Like just something about the chapter will just hit like, oh, this would work in perfect here. I really like it. And I've bounced back and forth too, which I'll probably get. In Genesis, it wasn't as comedical.
Goofy?
Yeah, goofy. It was kind of more like we were trying to get the kids into the story.
It was a little more dramatic.
Yeah, so a lot of it was like through their eyes and what was going on. And I still did one the other week, and it's actually pretty fun to get the kids like in there thinking about what they would be doing during that time. So that one's a little bit easier to do. And I'm thinking of the goofy ones. It's like, okay, how do you do this? One where it's entertaining because it's only audio. And then you're thinking, how do you convey that only in audio? Because a lot of it, when you're thinking comedy, exactly. There's so much visuals that would be funny. Like when I was doing the Locust Hunter, I'm actually out there tackling my oldest out there, and it's kind of funny, but I'm like, okay, how can we convey this audio as well? But overall, it's satisfying, it's fun. And a lot of times it's reliant on, sometimes I'll just sit back and go, Lord, you just put something in my head. Yeah. But you kind of spark something, and then it normally will all come together.
What you're doing is meant to be, right? I mean, this is something that was needed, and you guys are fulfilling that. What's the feedback been like?
It's been really good. It's hard to get it out there.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we have struggled with most, because I don't enjoy social media.
Right.
It's not my wheelhouse. It's not my forte. I don't want to be on it, and I'm not good at it. And really, for marketing podcasts, that's the top recommendation that I have found is use social media. And I really can't force myself to do that way. So we have to find other avenues for getting it out there. Really sharing it with friends, sharing it with family members. We would love for folks to do that, because that's the best way, is word of mouth and sharing and giving it a like or a subscribe or a comment or a rating. All of those things help, because the social media aspect is not going to work for us.
Well, the organic is always best over something that's forced and planted. It's so it just, like I said, it'll be family and friends, and it's the sharing, and hopefully we'll help to connect you with some more of the local audience. But the nice thing is with podcast, it could be global. What you're doing. I'm focused on Hyper Tehachapi. But what you're able to do, you're able to capture a global audience, an English-speaking audience.
Right.
So your market is endless.
And families who I have given it to, friends, have come back and said, this is exactly what I was looking for.
Right.
And it's just the best feeling to hear that, because it's like, I know, I'm a mom too, and this is what I was looking for, and I couldn't find it. So I'm really grateful that we can provide that.
Yeah, and it's a needle in a haystack. I was listening to a podcast today, and they mentioned, again, there's 2 million podcasts available out there. So you're thinking in that bank of podcasts, it just takes a lot of time just uncovering, and like I said, word of mouth and all that. But then I did, halfway through, I think I tried, I was like, okay, let go of all my selfish ambition and my own ego and things like that. And sometimes I'll notice, like in just a random day, like 8 people will listen. And actually that brings joy. I was like, that's 8 people that are listening and actually putting time and taking time away to do that. And I was like, it's nice to just keep it going for those. And as long as they're an audience out there that wants to, and we're having a good time doing it. And actually I know I'm growing from it as well. Personally, there's growth that I feel.
It's all in God's will. If it will grow as far as he wants it to, and that's as far as we want it to. We want it to be within his will. And if one family or one child or one person hears God's word because of this that wouldn't have otherwise, that's incredible. That's all we want.
It restores faith. It restores positivity. There's so much that benefits, that comes from this, from the efforts. And here's the other thing that I found with podcasting is that we'll find someone that'll listen to today, they'll tune in, and then they'll binge your show. They'll go back all the way and start going back.
Be kind if you go all the way back.
But you hear how you evolve and grow, right?
So it's funny, and we'll just say, we realized as we were getting, because anything you're doing over and over again, you're learning tricks, it's getting a little bit better. So probably around October, November, we started going back and re-recording the first few episodes, because I was listening going like, oh man, that could be tightened up. And again, it's the idea that can be started at any point right at the very beginning. So I was like, well, we've learned some things that make it look a little bit tighter. We can narrow it down a bit. So I think we recorded probably the first 3 or 4 episodes just after learning and kind of understanding the nuances of podcasting and editing and audio as well. There were some things we learned about that.
Oh, audio is everything. It is 100%. People will not listen if it's not. They're like, it's something. It's the same with video too. If you don't have good audio, people don't want to watch it.
Right.
This is everything. How you tell the story and thinking that you have to describe or explain something a little bit more to make it visual for people. So that way they're starting to see what you're talking about and describing.
Yeah.
So for me, I say don't change the past. Right. Embrace that and let people enjoy it. And they see how you've grown. I know if you go back to season 1 of Tehachapi and from where we are today, we're really happy with the growth. Like Corey and myself both have some radio background. No one else did. And we're teaching them how to communicate, not be intimidated by the microphone. We're just talking. I mean, the 3 of us are just having a conversation. The mics just happen to be here.
Right.
And it's all about connecting, one-on-one and sharing whatever happens to be flowing through our heads and then getting them comfortable. And that's the hardest thing, I think, is getting people to realize, just relax. It's a conversation. You don't have to sound like someone on TV. So anyway,
it helps when you do. That's why she reads all the Bible passages now. Yeah. I was like, she has a talent of that.
She knows how to deliver it,
exactly.
Right?
I was like, you go ahead and take that over because your voice is much more pleasant than mine.
Thanks.
You know how to tell a story, Maddie.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm so excited for you guys as you've got season 2 kicked off, at the growth of what you're doing, the connecting with families, kids of all different ages,
right?
Which is something that can't be said for, and I don't know, there's probably not a ton of podcasts that are actually geared family and with kids, that are in grade school.
That parents can learn something from too.
Right.
Which I love because I'm always learning and I'm including facts that I think are really cool that I have just learned. So I think that it can be appealing to a wide range of ages.
Yeah, and we've had feedback too from even not families. That's why I almost wanted to just be a Bible podcast where they're realizing, this is kind of beneficial, just as a person trying to learn about the word and learn how it can apply to my life.
Well, there's your second pod.
Yeah.
We created a second podcast where we got hyper-focused on an issue, and it sounds totally different than this style that we're of Tehachapi, and it's one of those that's highly produced. A lot of work goes into it, but we have a series, but it's Tehachapi. There's something there that you can create the sequel or the spin-off, if you will. Yeah. Well, good deal. So how does everybody listen? Where can they find?
She always looks at me for that. Like I know yes, I do. It's on all your podcast platforms. So Spotify and Apple iTunes, or not iTunes, sorry, Apple Podcasts, thank you, is the main one. YouTube, it's on there as well. And then there's a few other ones that we'll get data back that they're listening through. And I forget the names of them. They're kind of these smaller brand podcasts.
Just random that grab your content and fill it. Yeah, we find that too.
Grab
it's like, I have no idea how many platforms we're on anymore.
Yeah.
Those are the ones we put it on, right? Yes. Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify.
Yeah, and then they go ahead and grab it from those.
Yeah, we have Instagram and Facebook. You can like us on that. You can follow us on our link tree. You can subscribe, all that good stuff.
Yeah, all the stuff we've learned. Before I didn't know what a link tree was before this all happened. So now we have a link tree. But yeah, everything, all the social medias, We will start. I was looking today. We'll start posting new stuff on there as well. And
Oh, will we?
yes.
So your oldest, is he allowed into social medias yet? I mean,
No,
there's your manager.
he's just barely 12.
Okay, I know that's so.
No.
No, gonna keep it away.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna say.
I can't even imagine what he would do with it at
If
this point.
I
It would
have
be
a
bad.
tech problem,
It would
I
be
go
very
to my
bad.
grandson.
Oh, no,
you
not
know?
this guy. Certain tech things, I'm sure, but no, he doesn't have any idea how to get around social media.
Yeah, they
Which
don't
Which is a
have
good thing.
that.
That's
Yes,
appropriate for
very
that
grateful.
age. Yeah.
They have our old Wii that they love playing. I
Okay,
think we bought it in
yeah.
2012.
Right.
And but that's about it.
Yeah.
They're unlike me. It's funny. They love books. They're more like Madeline. They
Really?
We'll go on road trips. We just drove to Texas, and I will have to force them. Hey, look out the window. Look at that, because they're in their books reading, which is a great habit to have. But
Yeah.
it's funny how they've really developed a love for that.
Yeah, I know my wife absolutely loves to pick up a book. She likes paper. You know, she wants to turn a page.
Sure.
You know, and it's even though she has the Kindle and things like it's not the same for her.
It's definitely much more pleasant to have a book. Just like in the mornings, early mornings and late at night, I don't want to be looking at a device. I would rather be looking at a page. It's more comfortable, but it is pretty easy and accessible when you can't find a book in your library and they have the digital library. So I get it.
Well, the podcast is the greatest stories ever told.
A family Bible podcast brought to you by Just Mad Family Productions.
I love the Just Mad. I saw it and I turned my head for about a nanosecond. And I go, okay, it makes sense. Got it.
Justin, Madeline.
Yes. So, Maddie, Justin, thank you so much for taking the time. Anything that before we close, anything that we didn't bring up that you want to mention?
I don't think so. Let us know what you think. We always want to hear feedback. If you have a suggestion or a comment, bring it on. We'd love to hear it. Constructive criticism helps us get better.
Absolutely. Well, perfect. Thank you for taking the time. Greatly appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Keith.
It's taken a few weeks to get us lined up,
I
but
know.
I'm so super happy that we were able to. So, folks, if you do have a question for Justin or Maddie, please send it to us at media@tehachapicityhall.com. I'll get it to them. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram. Maddie will eventually put a post up.
Maybe.
If not, Justin definitely will.
There you go.
There you go. And you can check out the podcast. It is something that I follow and listen to. I get something out of it. It's a very positive interaction. You know, like I said, it helps chill me out. And then I think it's great for the family. So you guys are hitting a great market.
Thank you so much. We
you.
appreciate your support.
All right, folks. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. We'll catch you again soon right here on Tehachapi. You've been listening to Tehachapi. If you have a question, a thought, or a suggestion, email media@tehachapicityhall.com. We'll catch you again soon right here on Tehachapi.